Hey everybody, HMV here, playing more Kerbal Space Program, and we are launching Droho 1 to Moho. The idea here is to get a landing. That's basically the only goal is to land on Moho and get an unlock. The fuel here in the side tanks is slightly less than the SRBs, meaning that it gets used up slightly before the SRBs are done. That way, when we kick them away, the center tank here is mostly full still, and we can get a little bit more oomph out of that that bottom engine there. And as we near space, we ditch the fairings, and then we drop the lifter. And note that the lifter will re-enter the atmosphere and not be space junk, which is something I always appreciate, but don't always achieve. But I also launched at just such a time that I can just keep burning. This burn is going to just keep going until we get an encounter with Moho, or at least Moho's orbit. And you see here, we're pretty close to perfect. And then here I'm coming down to meet Moho's orbit right at the descending node, which is never too bad. And it's there with a little fuel left in the drop tank, which is never bad. I have found that getting two planets and moons that are tilted in any way to your orbit can be frustratingly hard, especially because it didn't used to be so hard, and I don't know what changed that the markers just argue with me about what is going to happen. So my first job here is to do one orbit to get to my ascending node. Luckily, we have comms, and so I can aim south to burn that tilt down to 0, but not without first tossing the empty drop tank. Now that the tilt is perfect, we need to burn a little retrograde to get our encounter markers. There's something we can work with. And I think I can nail a good encounter here. It seems like a lot of burning, but it's burning I would have to do at Moho anyway. I'm not getting the Oberth effect, but you don't get much Oberth at Moho anyway, especially because when you're screaming by at several kilometers per second. But anyway, there's our encounter. I tweak it a little to get it nice and close. And a minute before periapsis, I go full throttle. Or 4% throttle. Well, there. Now we're at full throttle. Oh, and science. Up to this point, I've kept the mystery goo with some junk data in it, so I don't accidentally send it along. I want to get that nice surface data from the surface of Moho. That's the gold right there. And speaking of the surface, here it comes. We are a bit more low on fuel than I thought we would be, but we should be fine if we just hold retrograde on the way down. Until suddenly, we are not holding retrograde anymore. I go into panic mode. There was no actual need to panic here, but I just panicked nonetheless. I freaked out. Oh no. Oh no. But I'm calling this a success. Except we don't get that mystery goo data. But we landed on Moho, and we get an unlock, and we decide that it is high time that we get maneuver nodes. This mission would have been much easier if I could have planned maneuver nodes. So, boom, maneuver nodes. Thank God, finally. And my first use of them is to plan my Dres mission. Using the ship that I had left in orbit on a previous mission, I just plot an ejection from Kerbin. Then I set Dres as a target and warp so I'm about at the descending node. That way I know that when I launch, I can just launch to Dres much like I launched to Moho before. About here is a good place to launch if you're going right from suborbital to ejecting to Dres or any other outer planet, really. We've seen this all before with the benefit that back then it was sunny, so I'm not going to bore you with it too much. But we do get a moderately decent connection with Dres, or Dres's orbit. And then out at the ascending node, I realize I have no comms connection. Oops, no normal burn there. So I time warped into comms range and aimed myself south. Note here I could have made a maneuver node, possibly one that included a prograde burn to get a connection with Dres on the next orbit. But I actually forgot I had just unlocked maneuver nodes, so I was playing as if I still didn't have them. But with no control except SAS hold and full throttle, I still managed to fix the orbital tilt. On the second try. I find the way encounter markers are acting here to be extremely frustrating. I can say this calmly now, but at the time I was just about ready to quit this challenge. Multiple orbits later, I finally get a setup where I feel like I can encounter on the next orbit. And I'm wrong. More orbits. Okay, this is it. It has to be. I burn on nothing but raw faith. and the markers randomly jump to a decent setup that I get really close to an encounter. And then I actually get an encounter. And finally, we're here, burning into orbit. And landing. Let's not repeat what happened on Moho all those years ago, shall we? Okay, I panicked here too, but I managed to not destroy the craft or do anything other than touch down and then take off again. But with nothing other than hold prograde in full or no throttle, I managed to get back into orbit with not too much fuss. And also not too much science. I didn't take one reading on the surface of Dres. I burned back to Kerbin from Dres like I burned to Dres from Kerbin, which is totally wrong because I want to go down, not up. Oh well, we'll do this the old-fashioned way, from sun orbit. We've still got plenty of fuel, right? Even accounting for the fact that I need to adjust my tilt, right? Okay, it's looking a bit tight on fuel here, but we should be able to get an encounter. There it is. Well, the markers at least. Just a little burn to get that encounter, and we are essentially on fumes, which means it's rescue mission time. So I go into R&D and I unlock the claw and upgrade the tracking station to a full level. That's with my Dres unlock. And then I launch the Droho grabber in such a way that I can launch directly into an encounter orbit. That should be about right. Lots north and some east. Not bad, just a few degrees off, and rising fast. I do manage to wrestle it into shape, and am off by less than a degree when I get my apoapsis up to the Dres ship's periapsis. And I remember this time that I have maneuver nodes, and I use them to get a nice encounter. 1.5 kilometers? Sounds good to me. All it takes here is a lot of burning to speed up to the ship's velocity. And then it's a nice and easy... Oh. No problem. I just need to recalibrate the... Ouch. I know the problem. I'm too far away when I start. So this time I sidle right up next to the ship and... Oh, now come on. No. No. How about if I try... No. I think that science box is too small to grab. So I go for the next best thing, the engine. And I get it on the first try. Then I burn almost all of my fuel getting back into Kerbin orbit. I decide on a 40-kilometer periapsis. I want to either come down fast or die trying. Oh boy, what are we losing? Looks like just a couple solar panels so far. I trigger the chutes because at this point I don't know if I'll continue to have control. Even with all that, we managed to come back out of the atmosphere. Slower, but still in orbit, and with both the probe cores intact. Something tells me this is the final re-entry, one way or another. And fate smiles on me first as we pass the 1 kilometer per second mark, and then as the drogues trigger. I toss the empty tank and the engine from the rescue ship, then the main chutes go, and wow, 3 meters per second. A successful landing, and a ship returned from Dres, with another unlock, though I don't know right now what I want. I do know, though, that I can't afford R&D. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I definitely enjoyed playing it. I'm HMV and I will, as always, talk at you later.